in this short segment from a podcast that I did with Heidi from Design for Discipleship, we talk about a critical point as why parents and kids need to be formed together in family formation at our parishes. Let's jump into it and see what she has to say. So I think the question is not the question, but the challenge that everybody's trying to overcome is, so how do we engage these parents in a way that will help shift the challenge that we have? Because even it's happening even between, first, like you said, first communion, first reconciliation, first communion, confirmation. Those kids who are going through that formation, they're there, but they're still disengaged because their parents are disengaged. There's no true support for them, so what do we do? It's like, how do
Yeah.
we shift that? I think that's what a lot of people are trying to discover, right?
And that's really what we've done with the Design for Discipleship system is attempt to answer that question in two directions at the same time. The first one is as educators and knowing what we know about the human brain, knowing what we know about human formation, the more disrupted that cycle is in the life of the child, the harder it's going to be to overcome later, right? So we're not okay with just being okay with that for the kids until we work on the parents. And that's an area that I kind of sometimes get into debates with people who work with adult discipleship because the way they see it is that once adult discipleship is reestablished, then that will naturally take care of the the diminishing discipleship of children and reestablish the proper norms. Unfortunately, what's happening is that's kind of become a perpetuating cycle because we only have those 18 years and really we only have 12 to 13 years. I mean, we know that by age 12 most kids have decided whether church is for real or just a waste of their
Yeah.
time that they're trying to a train they're trying to get off of. We know that. And so we have this window with the kids and adult discipleship takes time. So if we're focusing on the adults, our current faith formation models are kind of serving, when I'm being very blunt, I call it a factory for nuns, for NONEs, for
Mm-hmm.
non-affiliated. Because now they've become, then they graduate from confirmation and
Mm-hmm.
then I put that in quotations, you know, for those listening on audio. Um, but we we let that happen. And now we have to start over with those adults because they haven't had the formation that we could have provided. So the first pillar and where we really kind of, I don't want to call it a pillar, but the first kind of dimension that we work in is how do we work with the brain to catechize those children? And we can never get it as rich as it would be with the parent support at home. But are there things we can do to make sure we're backing up far enough to make sure we're establishing trust with kids, that we're giving them key experiences, and that we're doing it in a way that works with how the brain learns at different ages? Because the brain learns in very different ages. And so a lot of what we've done is put together resources to help, from the ages of birth to 6, help parishes re-engage and educate on just how much kids are learning by coming to mass, even though it's hard. And that's really, quite frankly, a lot of the reason the parents will give. We don't come to mass with our little kids because it's hard. And I get that. I feel
Mm-hmm.
that very deeply. I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
So just to help parents educate and encourage, even if just that baseline level of mass attendance, and help them understand what kids are learning, but not only then by identifying what kids are learning in that age, we're also identifying what they're missing when they come at, 6 to 12 and they haven't had those first 6 years of mass. What do we need to instruct that we're taking for granted they have? Like, we're assuming they know who a priest is. We're assuming they know what the gospel is or the Bible or the stories. We're assuming they have that. Let's challenge those assumptions and go back and fill in those holes because those are all very foundational pieces without which it is disconnected. It is church school. It's not related to our life outside of the church.